All right, so we're diving into Marvel Snap today. Specifically, that new card everyone's been talking about, Moonstone, right? You
Hmm.
guys already know Marvel Snap is that fast, strategic card game. And anytime they add a new card like this, well, it shakes everything up.
Yeah, it's always exciting to see how a new card can change the whole meta.
Exactly.
Like you said, everyone is trying to figure out what works best, how to build decks around it.
Yeah. And for this deep dive, we've got something really cool. We're going to be looking at a top player's gameplay and commentary as he tries out Moonstone for the first time. And it's completely raw, unscripted. So we get to see his thought process,
Yeah,
the real deal.
that's what I love about it. We get to see how an experienced player approaches this. They're figuring things out in real time. We see the wins, we see the losses, the frustrations. It's like we're right there with them as the strategy evolves.
Yeah, it's like a front row seat to how the game itself is changing.
Okay.
So let's jump right in. Moonstone. What's the big deal? What's all the hype about?
So Moonstone's ability, it's all about copying ongoing effects from your 1, 2, and 3 cost cards. And, ongoing, that means these effects are active as long as the card's in play. Right there, you can see how this could be huge.
Oh, yeah, I'm already seeing the potential. Like she's adapting, kind of like a chameleon, blending in.
Exactly. She takes on the strengths of your other cards, and it gets really crazy when you start combining her with cards that boost those ongoing effects.
Okay, so what kind of cards are we talking about?
Well, think about Mystique, for instance. She copies other card abilities,
Yeah.
as you can imagine. If Moonstone copies Mystique, and then Mystique copies, well, some other powerful ongoing effect,
Oh.
things can get out of control pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm starting to see how this all works.
And then you've got Onslaught.
What's that one do?
Onslaught doubles ongoing effects. So now imagine Moonstone copying that.
Double the doubling.
Yeah, it's exponential.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a point in the gameplay we're looking at where the player we're watching, he actually gets Moonstone to copy multiple Onslaught.
Whoa, hold up.
It's insane. Like, he
Yeah.
basically turns these small, low-cost cards into total powerhouses and just dominates the whole location.
That sounds pretty satisfying. So with those onslaught copies,
Oh,
a chain reaction, this huge power spike out of nowhere.
Exactly. That's what makes Moonstone so potentially game-changing. You're breaking the traditional power scaling.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like a whole new way to think about building a deck. But I gotta imagine, with any new card this strong, there's got to be some kind of counter, right? Some way to shut it down.
Oh, absolutely. And our player, he definitely runs into that in the form of Super Scroll.
Super thrill.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Super Scroll is a card that copies all the ongoing effects from both players.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you can see how that would be a problem.
Yeah, if Moonstone is relying on those copied effects.
Exactly. And honestly, you can really feel the player's frustration when this happens in the gameplay. He gets countered by Super Scroll over and over. Like, you can practically hear the tilt in his voice.
I can only imagine. It's like you set up this elaborate plan, and then someone just comes in and wrecks it.
It's rough.
So, is Super Scroll just the ultimate Moonstone killer then? Is there no way around it?
Well, it's definitely a major challenge. But this is something we see a lot with new cards in Marvel Snap. There's this initial excitement, everyone's trying out the card, figuring out crazy combos. But then the counters start to emerge, and players have to adapt.
Right, so it's not that Moonstone is bad or anything. It's just that the game is constantly evolving.
Exactly. And our player, he actually demonstrates that really well. He doesn't just give up after getting countered. He starts experimenting with different Moonstone decks.
Oh, that's cool. So what kind of decks is he trying out?
Well, he tries a few things, like Patriot decks, for example, which boost cards that don't have abilities.
Okay.
So it's a different approach to using Moonstone. And then he tries Cerebro decks too, where all the cards with the same power level get stronger, so you can see how Moonstone could be really powerful there.
Right, because she's boosting those cards even further. So he's really showing how versatile Moonstone can be. Like she can fit into all sorts of different strategies.
Exactly. It's not just a one-trick pony.
So how'd he do with those other decks? Did he find any success?
He did. He had some good moments, though he did mention that certain decks, like those built around Living Tribunal, they were pretty tough to beat.
So even with all this experimenting and strategizing, there's still going to be some matchups that are just unfavorable, huh?
Yeah, that's just how it goes in a game like this. There's always that rock, paper, scissors element. You can't win them all.
Makes sense.
But even in those tougher matchups, our player still found ways to make Moonstone work. He found those little glimmers of hope.
I love that.
And it really shows that even when things seem stacked against you, you can still find ways to be clever, to outsmart your opponent.
And that's what makes this game so great.
Absolutely. It's all about adapting, thinking on your feet, and taking risks.
So we've seen Moonstone's power. We've seen her struggle against counters. We've seen her used in all these creative ways. What does it all mean for our listeners? What are the big takeaways here?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that Moonstone isn't just a powerful card. She's a game changer. She forces you to rethink everything you thought you knew about Marvel Snap. The strategies, the deck building, the way you approach each match.
So it's not just about adding her to your deck and hoping for the best. It's about understanding how she fundamentally changes the game itself.
Exactly. And seeing this player's journey, his wins, his losses, his adaptations. It's a valuable lesson for anyone who wants to master Moonstone. And really, for anyone who wants to succeed in the ever-changing world of Marvel Snap.
It's like we're getting a sneak peek into the future of the game, all these new strategies and mind-bending plays that Moonstone is going to inspire.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. And for our listeners, the challenge is to take what we've learned here and apply it to their own games.
Exactly. So are you going to be Team Moonstone, embracing her chaotic power and building decks around her strengths?
Or are you going to be the one countering her, figuring out the best ways to shut her down?
The choice is yours. But no matter what you choose, remember that the best part of Marvel Snap is that it's always changing. It's always challenging you to adapt and think creatively.
Absolutely. Keep experimenting, keep learning, and most importantly, keep having fun.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork here. We've explored what makes Moonstone so unique. Now let's dive into the actual gameplay. Let's see how this all plays out in the real world.
Sounds good to me.
I'm ready for some Moonstone mayhem.
So there's this one moment in the gameplay, really stood out to me, where the player's trying to decide whether to play Iron Man or go with a Moonstone and Captain America combo.
Ooh, yeah, those tough decisions. That's what makes these card games so fun.
It was a nail-biter, let me tell you.
So what was the situation like?
Yeah.
What was he trying to achieve?
So she needed a power boost to win this one location, and he had these two options right. Iron Man, which doubles the power of other cards at that location.
Yeah, Iron Man, classic power move.
Or he could go with Moonstone and Captain America.
Right, right.
And remember, Captain America gives all the other cards at the location +1 power.
Okay, so Iron Man's like this big burst of power.
Yeah.
But Moonstone and Cap are more about spreading it out.
Exactly. And to make things even more complicated, there were other cards in play. And you always have to consider what your opponent might do.
Right, right. So many things to think about.
It was a real test of his strategy skills.
So what did he go with? Spill the beans?
He went for the Moonstone Cap combo.
Risky.
It was a gamble, but it paid off big time. Like the power distribution. It caught his opponent completely off guard.
I bet that felt good.
Oh yeah, you could hear it in his voice.
So he wins the location, wins the game, all thanks to that Moonstone Cap combo.
Exactly.
It's moments like this that really show how Moonstone can shake things up. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just use the same old strategy.
There's no way of thinking.
It's not just about slotting her into an existing deck. You got to build around her, figure out how she interacts with other cards.
She creates these new win conditions that didn't exist before.
She's like a catalyst,
Yeah,
setting off all these chain reactions.
that's a great way to put it. And speaking of chain reactions, there's another moment in the gameplay that really shows how Moonstone can turn the tide.
Oh, tell me more.
Remember how we were talking about Super Scroll being that hard counter to Moonstone?
Yeah, I don't think I'll forget that anytime soon.
Well, there's this part where our player actually manages to beat an opponent who's using Super Scroll.
Wait, hold on. I thought we established Super Scroll was like Moonstone's kryptonite.
It's definitely a tough matchup, but this is where our player's skill really shines through. Instead of trying to overpower Super Scroll, he uses a really clever combination of cards and location manipulation to make Super Scroll work against his opponent.
Whoa, that's some next level stuff right there.
It really is.
Turning your opponent's counter into your own weapon.
Strategic jujitsu.
So how'd he pull it off? Break it down for us, mere mortals.
Okay, so basically he uses a card that shuffles the locations. So now there's this element of randomness.
Right, so the opponent can't predict what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he positions his cards so that the opponent is almost forced to play Super Scroll at a location that benefits our player.
So it's like he's setting a trap.
Exactly.
This is why I love these deep dives. We get to see these amazing plays
Mm.
and understand the thinking behind them.
And then maybe try them out ourselves.
Exactly. So after all those Super Scroll defeats, I bet this win felt extra sweet.
Oh yeah, you can hear it in his voice. He's hyped.
So we've seen Moonstone's power. We've seen her struggles. We've seen her used in ways we never even imagined. What's the lesson here? What should our listeners take away from all this?
The biggest takeaway, I think, is that Moonstone isn't just a powerful card. She changes the whole game.
Yeah.
She makes you rethink your strategies, your deck building, how you approach every match.
It's like she raises the skill ceiling for the entire game.
And seeing this player's journey, it's a great example of how to adapt, how to think creatively, and how to succeed in a constantly evolving game like Marvel Snap.
It's like we're getting a preview of the future.
Yeah.
All these crazy new strategies that Moonstone is going to inspire.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
So now that we've seen Moonstone in action, I'm curious.
Yeah.
What about you? What strategies would you use against a Moonstone deck?
That's a good question.
Would you just go straight for Super Scroll every time?
Well, Super Scroll is strong, sure, but I wouldn't want to rely on him too much.
Yeah, I guess that makes you predictable.
Exactly. Plus, a good player will find ways to counter your counters, you know? So you got to have some other tricks up your sleeve.
So what else could you do? Like, how do you disrupt those Moonstone combos?
Well, there are cards that can target ongoing effects directly,
Right.
like Enchantress. She can remove those abilities. And then you've got Rogue, who can actually steal them.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So you're not just countering Moonstone herself, you're taking away the things that make her strong.
Dismantling the whole engine.
Exactly. And then there's another approach. You can try to create really unexpected situations on the board.
What do you mean?
Like, mess with the locations. Flood the board with certain types of cards, basically. You want to throw the Moonstone player off their game.
So they can't set up those perfect combos.
Yeah, make them think on their feet. Make them adapt.
I like it. It's like, you want to play chess? Well, I'm flipping the board.
Exactly. Sometimes chaos is your best weapon.
So we've learned a lot about Moonstone, her strengths, her weaknesses, and how she's changing the whole game.
It's been a wild ride.
It really has. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is that Moonstone is more than just a new card.
Yeah.
She's a whole new way of thinking about Marvel Snap.
You got to be more adaptable, more creative.
More aware of all the different interactions between cards.
It's a whole new level of strategy.
And the exciting thing is, this is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
We're just scratching the surface.
As more players get their hands on Moonstone, we're going to see some incredible new decks and strategies.
That meta's going to be in constant flux.
It's going to be a wild ride.
So for you listeners out there,
What are you going to do?
are you going to embrace the chaos of Moonstone?
Build decks that leverage her power?
Or are you going to be the one countering her?
Finding new and creative ways to shut her down.
The choice is yours.
But no matter what you choose,
Remember that the beauty of Marvel Snap is that it's always evolving.
always something new to discover.
Always a new challenge.
So keep experimenting, keep learning,
And most importantly,
keep having fun.
that's it for our deep dive into Moonstone and the world of Marvel Snap. Until next time, may your snaps be ever in your favor.